Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Thing I Love Most show. Once again, I am joined by some of the greatest football minds in the world. I'm joined by Mr. Lee Curtin. Hello, Lee.
Evening.
I've got Mr. Matty Colson.
How you doing, mate? You all right?
And I've got Big Bad Don.
Hello, mate. How you doing?
Very well, thank you, guys. So once again, we are doing a Skype show today. As you can see, we are not in the Bluecoats pub in Tottenham. So we're doing a Skype show. And obviously, if you're listening on a podcast form, then it's exactly the same. So we've got lots to talk about this week. We've obviously got 2 games to catch up on. And then we've got a bit of gossip and stuff like that as well. So let's start off, if we can, with the first victory of the week. A very, very chilly victory against Watford. It's always weird when we have to think sort of all the way back, but it was almost a week ago now. I was actually quite confident, even up to pretty much when we did eventually get the winner, that we would win. I can't say that my sentiments were echoed by my fellow fans around me, and in fact, I've got to say, it was embarrassing, some of the stuff that people were saying. Like, I mean, I know it was a terrible crowd, and so anyone that was there should be given credit for actually being there, because I know a lot of fans, 1, are just boycotting Wembley full stop, and 2, just weren't able to go. So fair enough, people that were there, but the hypocrisy from fans, like there was this one particular guy who was literally like saying, Llorente, get out of our club, when he missed his chances. Fair enough, he missed a couple. I get that. He's a striker. He's not the best in the world. We know that. But then the same person was running down the aisle when he scored the winner. And it's just like, mate, you just look like a fool. And I was just like, and it was mental. And it was it was almost the same on Saturday, because obviously he came on and he did have an impact, but he did obviously miss a couple of sitters as well. I know we'll talk about them in a bit. So, but yeah, again, like the PSV game, I think when we scored late on, like I was still confident. You know, they weren't really offering anything. And as we said many times on this show, the only time they're scoring is when we make a mistake. And again, it was Lloris. Again, it was stupid. Again, it was like easily defendable. It was just like so infuriating. We are giving teams head starts when we don't need to. It was just like it's just becoming more of a thing. And we'll talk about it in a sec, whether we think that Gazzaniga is now deserving of a chance. But let's just talk about the game and your opinion of the game. So we'll start with Matt. Matt, what were your thoughts overall on the performance?
Yeah, do you know what? You've hit a good point actually with it when it comes to like still thinking that we weren't going to lose. I mean, I think it's a mentality that Pochettino has brought to the club. Like, I think pre-Pochettino, that would be like we would have capitulated in that game, you know. And we just seem to have that never say die attitude. And you know, Lee, I was with you, wasn't I? We was with our children, weren't we? And you know, it was frustrating at times watching it, wasn't it? But yeah, I just think that it's from minute 0 to minute 90, he's got it instilled in him, isn't he? That you just don't give up. You don't give up, and it you know it showed at the end, didn't it? You know, those 2 goals. But yeah, it was a frustrating game at times, and it was frustrating with, like you say, with the Llorente misses and the time wasting, which you're not going to blame them, are you? That they're 1-0 up. They want the result. It got so frustrating. But the thing I loved, the best part, it was when it was 2-1 to us, and the ball boy, you know, when he holds onto the ball, suddenly they didn't get the ball, you know. But yeah, a frustrating game, but obviously happy to get the 3 points at the end.
He was getting a good reception on Sunday. Actually, he was the same one. And yeah, whenever he got the ball, we were bigging him up. So it was good.
Wicked.
What were your thoughts, guys?
Well, I can only echo what Matt says. One thing to remember, I suppose, fans don't remember when you're at the game, but you know that late surge for Tottenham's performances is you know, it's there for everyone to see. We score goals in the last 80 minutes, in the 80th minute. That's when we seem to click in. So, you know, if I was to say anything, it's to be patient. We're without our leading scorer. We've had a number of players out. What do you expect? You can't expect to roll teams over. So, you know, it is what it is. It's a bit silly, as you would say, running your gums up early doors to someone like Llorente. I think if you'd had a younger striker, you'd have his head would have gone a lot earlier on in the match.
I still didn't. I just regards that knee, that chance off the knee. I mean, I haven't watched it back loads of times, but for me, he was obviously very close, and it looked like it was easier to score than miss. But I also think it's coming back at him quite quickly. It's quite hard to adjust your body in that time to get it high enough to get the connection needed to get the ball in the net. If it comes at you knee level, it's going to maybe bounce off your knee and it might go up. So for me, that didn't look like, and I'm not a professional footballer. I don't have his knees, but for me, it didn't seem like it was as gilt-edged as I thought. So I'm going to go over to Lee, who has played football in his time at a higher level than any of us. So Lee, what are you thinking?
Well, I did watch it back a couple of times because I was in the crowd, and I did chuck my daughter down 10 rows of stairs at the time. But I watched it back. I did watch it back, and it was one of those actually, and it's a funny one. He panicked. He actually panicked. He had a split second longer than he actually thought, and it was the defender behind him that he thought was going to get his leg back in the way and clear the ball. And he actually wouldn't have. But it's obviously his peripheral vision is aware of him, and he just snatched it. And it was literally, you're talking millimetres. It drops a couple of millimetres lower. That just nestles in the back of the net. It really would have. So it's unfortunate. It goes back to the sharpness that we've spoken about. And do you know what? It's come game by game. He's just done some things a little bit better each game. He sat on the bench. He sat on the bench for 20 something games,
Yeah.
and I get this. It was frustrating. It wasn't just him. It was unfortunate it fell to him at that particular time because the whole game, as Matt said, it was frustrating. The way they time wasted, the way they sat back, the way they chucked 8 bodies, in front of Son every time he ran with the ball. That they frustrated the hell out of us. So I think when the chances came, we were just desperate. As a crowd, we were just desperate. But you're right, Noel. People have to. They can't be shouting stuff like that. They cannot
Not
be
at
shouting.
all. When you put on the shirt, we had it with Sissoko early on in the season, and last season. Like, if you put on the shirt, one, you got to show respect, and two, you got to support. That's what we're there for.
Yeah.
Why do you pay the money to go and shout abuse at your own? Obviously, we know he's not the answer. No one's saying he's the answer, but that doesn't matter. When you put that shirt on, you've got to support him. You have to support him. I'm going to actually bring out a stat now because I know Don's got stats coming out of his ears as well as those headphones. But I stole this from actually Football 365 because I think it highlights what you were saying, Don. So, and it was just titled Tottenham's Grinding. So against PSV, winner in the last 10 minutes. Against Inter, winner in the last 10 minutes. Against Barcelona, equaliser in the last 10 minutes. Against Burnley, winner in the last 10 minutes. Fulham, winner in the last 10 minutes. Watford, winner in the last 10 minutes. Newcastle, winner in the last 10 minutes. That is down to fitness. That's down to perseverance. That's down to calmness. And that's down to confidence. And, that's something that we have not had for a very long time. And it's one of the reasons why we have the highest points total that we have ever had. And it's down to Pochettino. So, I think
it's always been with Spurs, isn't it? We go 1-0 down, heads down, that's it, but I genuinely, and I mean this, when we go 1-0 down, it doesn't bother me because I know that we're going to still keep fighting. Like, you've scored 1 goal, but we've scored. I'm talking about stats. I mean, is it like something like in the last 75 games we've only failed to score in like 3 of them? So
yeah,
we're going to score a goal. So just be patient.
And he actually, sorry, Lee. He actually changed the game quite a bit in terms of his substitutions, which sometimes he's, like people criticise him for. But at half time he went attacking. He brought more, and then he brought them. Like there was some big changes there, and he went for it second half against Watford, and it was we deserved to win hands down. They offered nothing.
No, they didn't, and that's what I mean. And I think the main frustration. Forget the way they defended and forget their time wasting. It's that it goes back to that giving them a goal head start, giving teams that goal head start that could be prevented. Because if we score early against those sort of teams, they fold. They have to come out. They have to open up a little bit at us, and we take them teams apart when they open up. And I think that's what I find the most frustrating. It's not that I don't think we'll ever score. I I'm confident we'll score. As soon as that goal went in, as soon as the equaliser went in, we sat there. Everybody fancied the winner.
Yeah,
you could see the winner. See the winner coming.
Yeah, of course.
It's a shame that we keep have a goal head start. Because I think if you look back at those last 10-minute goal stats that you got there, Noel, I'd be interested to see how many of those we've had to come from.
About half of them.
Yeah, so we've had to come from behind, 1-0 down and go on to win the game as well. So, I think fans need to be aware of that. They've got to believe that the boys on the pitch, they're of a different quality of cloth than what we've been used to in the years gone past.
Mentality is completely different now, isn't it?
100%.
So you're talking about obviously giving them a head start. Lloris, I think, was to blame for it. He came and then he didn't come. He sort of was in complete no man's land. It wasn't even that far out. Obviously, Sanchez then came, didn't really know what he was doing, and it was calamitous. It was embarrassing. But we're saying this again. How many more times this season are we going to be saying this, and how many more are we going to allow before we really say Gazzaniga or whoever? If Gazzaniga is not the answer, then buy a keeper. We can't keep on, one, gifting these goals away, but two, because they're so easily to defend. I mean,
see, I'm gonna say this, and this isn't me being a fanboy, but Hugo is a quality keeper. We saw that. We're going to go on to the game at the weekend against Newcastle. I read an article that Perez came up to him and was like, my shot was goal bound, basically.
Yeah, that save. Yeah, that one.
You've got to remember, we're going to get world class saves, and occasionally we're going to get, I know it's hard because did he win us the game? But I think Newcastle players will think that they could have got a draw out of that. They set their stall out. They were thinking we as the game was wearing down, they were thinking, yeah, we're going to get something. We're going to at least get a point out of this. You've got to remember what he does bring to the team. I don't, forget the captaincy and all of that. He is still a quality keeper, and you'll see that in most games. You'll see that he will pull out a save like that. So it is difficult because I can remember when we had Robbo, and I used to love Robbo. Not for his saving, but just the way he could kick the ball out. I just thought that was amazing that someone could do that. Each keeper has their own sort of, key attributes, and Lloris has that. He has the ability to pull out those saves when I don't think there was that many other keepers that could do that. It's a tough one. I know I can understand what we're all saying here, and I do agree with you. He has these lapses of concentration, but at the same time, he's got something that some other keepers don't have.
So it's a balancing act between if the shots that he saves and the mistakes he concedes, but when the goals that he concedes now are almost outweighing the shots that he's saving, the world class shots that he's saving that other keepers wouldn't necessarily save, then it's a worry, and that seems to be the case. So anyway, Matt, I interrupted you.
No, sorry. Yeah, I was just going to say, I always feel sorry for keepers because, he makes mistakes, and if you look at some of the other sort of keepers that play in his role, like a sweeper keeper kind of role, they're prone to mistakes as well. But you go all the way up to the top of the pitch. Like if Harry Kane, misplaces a ball, then you've got the rest of the team to, before it gets anywhere near the. But he's the last line of the defence, so he makes a mistake. That's your lot basically. So all the players will make mistakes at some point. Unfortunately for Lloris, it gets highlighted because he literally is the last line of defence.
But it's a simple mistake, though. That's the problem. It was coming for a cross, which wasn't that hard a cross to deal with, and it's bread and butter for a decent keeper. So that's.
Do you think, Noel, though, part of the problem may be that because like both of them games, I know we're going to go on to the Newcastle game, but you've got the Watford Newcastle game. He hasn't had much to do in both of them games, has he? So I can imagine it must be hard. And look, I'm not trying to make excuses for him, but it must be so difficult to switch on when you're doing so little in the game.
Possibly, but I just think the mistake leading up to that goal is ABC of goalkeeping. You come for the cross, you keep coming, and you take out Sanchez. you take out Didi, you take out Jan, you take out everybody who's in front of you. You don't go and then go back. It was a bizarre call. It was very bizarre, and it dropped within the 6-yard box, bang in the middle, so 3 yards out. It was just, you don't go back. You come for that. Anyway, and I don't want to be overly critical on him. I don't think he's been completely off the boil recently in the last few games. He hasn't been. He set a very high standard when he come to us, and we haven't. It's been a long time since we've had a quality keeper, let alone a quality 1 and 2. It's a long time since we've had somebody knocking on the door going, "Hello, number 1." Like I fancy a go here. So we're in a good position, and I think that's why the spotlight's on him a little bit more. So I think the last few games, I don't want to be overly harsh. I think he's done all right, but you come for a cross, you don't go back, and he should know that. I mean, he's a World Cup winning goalkeeper. You clear out everything in your way. So. Yeah, but he's made a few good stops, and in the last 2 games combined. And you know what? Let's run with it. And he's got our support now.
Yeah, of course.
In not in his defence again, but I have seen there was a period when he was out and Gazzaniga was playing, and you obviously look at you watching the game, you look at the differences between the 2 keepers. Gazzaniga, when he retrieves the ball, is a couple of seconds quicker to get that ball out, whether it's via his hand or he's kicking the ball out. He just seems to do it a lot quicker, and he can pick a pass straight away. I've seen goals being scored from that. But as a result of that, I was kind of watching how Hugo would respond to that, and he's attempting to do the same thing. If you watch closely, he's trying to. He's obviously seen what Gazzaniga's done and thought, I could add that to my game. I could do that. I think he's learning from that. And you're right, Lee. He is. We've got a great number 1, great number 2, and he must be feeling a little bit of pressure there. You don't think he's had that with Vaughan before, where he was slightly relaxed, knew that this guy's never going to take my place, whereas now he must be thinking, yeah, this guy, he's got it.
Okay, so now it's time to talk about the most recent game, the game yesterday. Was it yesterday? God, no, it was Saturday. Saturday, lunchtime. It was way too early, man. I couldn't get my head around it. I was late. I was like, what time is it? What? I was just like, it's too weird, man. You couldn't really have a beer that early. I know people have. It's like, no. So anyway, but the turnout was good. Like, that was a decent crowd. I think it was about 42,000, which I thought was okay, considering, it's freezing and, considering we only got 29 or so against Watford. It was a decent performance, I thought. Frustrating, I think, to play the way we did with the players that we had, in terms of we were crossing it a lot. But we had Mora, and it was just strange. It was like, if you're going to play that way, which we did want to play with Llorente in the team, why are you doing it with Mora in the team? It just didn't really make sense. And Vertonghen played left back, who played really well, I thought, first half. Second half, he seemed to drop a little bit, maybe just, I don't know, he got a little bit tired, or he just didn't seem to be putting the crosses in as much. But I thought we were perseverant, and we knocked on the door. And then obviously eventually he did make the change. Llorente came on, and I was with Brian. I was next to Brian Hurley. We were watching the game, and it was so funny when the cross went over to like Llorente, and he was like, "Go on then, you tree." And then it worked. It bumped off him, and then happy days. He got another assist, I think. And then obviously Sonny. I mean, it was a goalkeeping howler. We talk about Lloris. God, if Lloris had done that, then he'd be in trouble on this show. So I think, it was. We got that bit of luck, but I think we deserved it. I think overall, I think we only had about 4 shots on target, but we had over 20 shots. So it was one of those games where we had a few cleared off the line, hit the bar. Obviously they hit the post with the Rondon chance. So it was a good battle. They fought well, but we knew they were going to fight well, because obviously they'd had the win against Man City in midweek, so we knew that they were going to pose a threat. But I thought we were sort of clinical when we needed to be, obviously at the end, and we were professional, I thought, in the performance. That's how I describe it. Lee, what was your take on the game tactically?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people are obviously questioning the changes. Why would you leave Llorente out now? You know, when his confidence was up, and then pop more in. You have to be a little bit open-minded about it. And I know Poch has come out and said about the fitness side of it, and he has sat on the bench for 20-something games, and he has just played 4 games or 5 games pretty much back to back. And it's a little bit draining. It's physically draining and mentally draining. You know, that Wednesday night really felt for the guy. You could see the world lift off his shoulders when that ball hit the back of the net. And I would have liked to see him start, but I think he came on and he made his point. You know, the one in the air where it got lost in the sun. You can't knock him too much for that. I know people wanted to, but you know, it's there for all to see. Even on the TV, it dropped out of the sun, so it is what it is. And ultimately, if you don't score, get an assist, and he did that. I thought Mora was lively. You know, he had those dancing feet, he had the quick feet, but the header was a big miss. If Llorente,
he's still lacking that. It's like we've spoken about before, hasn't it? He's still lacking that end product. Yeah,
and I think for me, he's got to. I'd have him coming in off the wings a bit more, to be honest with you. In our current setup, the way we, you know, with our current crop of players, missing Ali, missing Kane, I'd have him coming in off the wings a bit more, and trying to affect the game from there. But listen, he gave him a run around in the first half. He didn't put the ball in net, unfortunately. So, you know, he played his part. And so whilst we was all kind of looking at the changes and questioning them, I think ultimately after 90 minutes, you look at the result, you look at the changes that Poch made, and let's not be shy and with the praise and go, Poch made a change after 60 minutes. You know, he gave Llorente, he gave him the 30 minutes. He gave him enough time to find his feet and get into the play. And he doesn't usually do that, you know, and it paid off. It paid off this time. So he's seen the change, he witnessed the change. But one thing was good, despite all the changes. We started the game the way we finished on Wednesday night. And sometimes we just don't do that. You know, we finish a game and you go, right, straight into these lot on Saturday, and we don't show up. And it was good to see us like just go straight in and go right back. We're still here. Put them straight on the back foot. So that was pleasing.
What I think it was almost like a game that one of the old games at White Hart Lane where we were basically just facing like so many men behind the ball, struggling to break them down. It was very central. It was very tippy-tappy, which normally this season we've relied on Eriksen or Sissoko sometimes just to be that driving force, either winning a free kick or, you know, getting the rebound. He seemed to be lacking in a bit of energy, and Eriksen was just lacking in everything. I thought it was one of his worst games, especially when it comes to set pieces. I mean, I think Lee mentioned it on Facebook, like it just, something's going on there. And then also Trippier, another very wet performance from him. And, you know, Kyle Walker-Peters had his chance the other day on the left-hand side, which was frustrated, as we all were frustrated to see it. So, you know, I would love to see Kyle Walker-Peters at right back the next game, but he's probably going to play Aurier or Trippier. Seems to be ahead of him. So frustrating. What do you think the reason, Don, is for Eriksen's lack of form? Do you think he's just fatigued?
I don't know. I think there's an element of fatigue setting in. This is another issue. Is I think sometimes we as fans, there are players in our team, you know, I'll include Kane in this, where they go through a dip in form. And Eriksen has done it a few times whilst, you know, during his time at Tottenham. Some fans will just kind of let that slide. This is nothing new. I'm not saying that he's a bad player, but this is nothing new. He goes through these periods. It's just that what Poch does is he just continues to play him, and he eventually comes out of it. So it's happened last season. It's exactly the same thing happened where, you know, if you're speaking to fans that are, you know, like-minded fans, you say, what's going on with him? Everyone will be going, I know, you know, there's something wrong. He will probably just, you know, we'll see a change in in how he plays in the next few games. I think I'm hoping that anyway, but
maybe
it is a concern. It is a slight concern because we're at the business end of the season and we don't need that. We need in these next 6 or 7 fixtures, we need him to be on top of his game because, like you just mentioned, teams are setting out. Benitez set himself out to really have as many men behind the ball. He knew exactly what he was doing, and it almost worked. And like you said, you mentioned earlier, Noel, you expect Sissoko or Eriksen to come out and Eriksen to pick that pass, and crossing wise, he doesn't seem to be affecting the game as much as he would normally. But can we then flip that and say that we haven't had the midfield that is he being asked to do more than what he was?
Maybe. I think he also thrives off Kane.
You had Dembele, you had Dyer, that he had enforcers that were there behind him, whereas now he's dropping into midfield and sometimes I see him he's going further back than Winks is and doing a bit more. So are we is this just a change in the way we're playing that means that we're not getting the same out of him?
I think also he thrives off Kane and Ali. I think making those runs in behind, and they thrive off him. It's like there's obviously a relationship there which we've spoken about before on the show, and I think that does help him perform better because though they are very clever players and they do make those intelligent runs. And I don't think Moura or Lamela or Llorente, whoever is playing ahead of him, will necessarily make them. So I think in that case it's harder. But then at the end of the day, this is the time now when he needs to take those games by the scruff of the neck and say, look, I'm the baller in this team. I'm the one who can have a shot. I'm the one who can pick a pass because he's got it in his locker. And that, I think, is the most frustrating thing for me. Matt, what are you thinking?
Well, do you know who's doing it at the moment? And we haven't really spoke about him too much. Sonny. I mean, those obviously we've got him back early, haven't we? He wouldn't even been here if South Korea was still in. Well, I don't know if the finals happened, but he wouldn't have played those 2 games, would he? And he's been the difference in the 2 games. And a lot of people don't talk about. I mean, I was watching the highlights of the Newcastle game again, and his first touch is phenomenal. It really is. Like he gets it down, and he's got 3 players around him, and he just the way he sort of he touches it to his right, doesn't he? And he basically clears the space with the 3 defenders around him so he can get the shot off. And I know the goalkeeper obviously is not the best of saves from the goalkeeper, but to give himself that space, I don't think that's like that kind of that ability was or that moment in the game was talked about that much. He's a difference, and obviously I know the goals the difference, but it's not just the goal he scored, it's the energy he brings in. I mean, the guy just hasn't stopped, has he, since the beginning of the season? I mean, he's flown off to Indonesia, he's flown off to the United Arab Emirates, he's played almost every cup game, every league game. He has not stopped. Yet you watched him, those 2 games I watched him, it's just the energy levels of him. It's incredible.
Yeah.
And listen, I know he's a youngster and obviously a professional football player, but you're starting to see, like, when you're watching games, I was watching the City game yesterday, and some of the players look tired. Like, players are starting to look tired at this time in the season, aren't they? And you wouldn't be like, if he was starting to look tired now, you'd understand. But the guy just is like one of those Duracell rabbits, isn't he?
That's what Poch referred to him as. That's exactly what he said. That's exactly what he said, and it's meant to him.
Before, as per the tweet, before I'll go on to Son and sacrificing my man for him. I just on that Eriksen thing, Noel, you touch on it. Sometimes when you've got a player as creative as him, players off the ball with their running ability and the runs that they make allow them to shine a little bit more. And you touched on it, Kane's movement, Ali's movement, the way they interact with him, it allows him to move the ball quicker. And until Sonny's come back, he hasn't really had that. He's trying to bounce a ball off Llorente, who's as stiff as anything that's come out of Madame Tussauds, bless him, not for his own liking, but that's what he's got, and he's dropping deeper than Winks because Winks is the one who drops to get on the ball. So out of frustration and wanting to be on the ball, Eriksen's dropping deeper than Winks to get on the ball. And against Fulham, he dropped into that role and pushed Winks out to the right, or Winks moved himself out to the right, and that's where the winner came from. And Eriksen was still involved in that. Now, he hasn't been great, according to us who watch him. However, he still's created the most chances out of any Spurs player in the last 3 or 4 games. He's still got the assist against Fulham for the first goal. He's still doing things with the ball. Yeah. What he can't do is cross a dead ball. And he's so frustrated at the moment as well in his play, I think, through lack of movement in front of him, that he's starting to hit these stupid shots and they're just cannoning off players who are 2 yards away from him. He doesn't have the ability and the quick footwork to move a ball like Sonny does and create that yard for him. He does have the ability to move a ball and pick a pass. So I feel he's a bit frustrated. I feel that the players in front of him of the quality of Ali and Kane missing are massive to the way his game has kind of appears to have dropped off. And I say appears to have dropped off because if you look at his chances created, he's still up there. He's still up. Crossing a dead ball is that's a no-no for me. He's got to just give them up. He's just got to step away from a dead ball now.
When he takes a corner, sorry, mate.
No, go on. I was just going to say, if Trippier is going to be on the field, which we're not all necessarily keen on, then surely he has to be the one because he has got a good cross normally, and so. Obviously, if it's Kyle Walker-Peters who is on the pitch, which we would like maybe, then I don't know who's going to take him. It might be Eriksen again, and we might just be equally frustrated. Lamela has sort of just not really done enough, I think. And this was another opportunity, I think, with Kane and Ali out and Moore and Llorente sort of stopping. This was his chance to really show some quality, get some goals or assists. But he just feels a bit like he's just very, very sideways. He picks it up on the right, and he just runs across the defence. And he just passes it off to the left. There's no incisive passing. There's no shooting. There's no driving runs forward like we've used to see him in the past. He just seems to not be as confident as he used to. And I don't know what the reason is for that. I don't know what you think. Matt?
Yeah, I mean, he when he came back from that long-term injury, he seemed to come back a lot bulkier and a lot more confident, because before that was always his problem, wasn't it? He was always kind of didn't have that confidence to make the decisive ball, and if he did, it 9 times out of 10 he wouldn't make it. And it's almost like you say, he's kind of gone back to that. He just needs that confidence, like to because it's not going to get the man, is it? Some of the times, but. He knows he's got the ability to do it. So it is a bit strange that he seems to be sort of like you say, like making the runs, but not making the decisive passes or getting in the box like like he has in the past.
I'm going to be a bit different here. I don't think that
for the first time.
Yeah, I'm going to be a bit different because I think that he's done okay. We know that we can probably get another level out of him. Earlier on in the season, I thought, this is it for him. He's going to be. This is the guy.
He was amazing. He was much better. He was scoring goals. He was involved in goals. When was the last time he was involved in a goal?
No, that's true. And I'm not going to ask too much of him. I think he's coming in when everyone's fit. He's not getting in that starting 11. It's just not going to happen. So he's doing a job. One of the guys on our group, on the DSI groups, say what you want about him, but he battles, and I like that.
Yeah,
I can't fault that he puts. It's even like there are scenarios where we could not necessarily be chasing a game, but we're playing Arsenal, and you want someone to kind of just come in and rough them up a bit, or win that, get that booking, get that yellow card. That's
yeah. I mean, he's definitely good at that. He's definitely good at that. I mean, if you want someone to get a yellow card,
he loves a yellow.
Definitely your man. But if you just look at the comparison, Son has been involved in 13 goals in his last 10 games, goals and assists. And that's the kind of return that we need from those kind of attacking players. And I know, obviously, Matt's touched on it. We're very lucky to have someone of Son's quality, and even Jonathan Pearce on Match of the Day was saying he might be up the player of the season, which I think is amazing. But who knows? But I think, this is his opportunity now because Kane and Ali are out. Grab, again, like Eriksen, that he needs to do more. That's all we're expecting. And we know, I wouldn't be saying it if I didn't think he could do it, because he showed at the beginning of the season that he could. And that's the thing, he's got the quality to do it. He's actually got a decent shot, but he just doesn't do it. It's just like it. Maybe that's a confidence thing. I just don't know.
I think I don't know. Maybe Don might be able to dig deep in his back pocket for a stat or so. But since the boys Kane and Ali have been missing, he hasn't really featured. He's still been a bit part in Poch's team selections. We all as fans thought, okay, well, they're injured, they're gone, and straight away we've gone in our heads. We've gone, okay, Llorente, and then we'll have Lamela off him, more off him on the other side. Eriksen's still in there, Winksy behind them. We're sorted, we'll be fine. And I think he's still been on the bench in some games.
Or he's been subbed. It's one of the two.
Well, they were saying it was maybe still maybe got this hip injury, which means that he couldn't necessarily train as much. So maybe he's still carrying that.
Carrying a bit of a knock. I think he might be carrying a bit of a knock because he hasn't featured, and when he's been on, he seems to be fighting him with himself again to find that form he showed at the start of the season.
Yeah.
That we all came to expect. He looks a little bit frustrated within himself.
Lee, when you're carrying a knock, does it knock your confidence as well?
You're nervous. You're nervous. And depending on what it is, if it's a muscle injury, because I was very surprised by Dele, and if you look back at that Fulham game, there was a moment very early on in the game where Dele went for a run and he slowed himself down, and the ball, he let the ball kind of run, and he kind of went down and grabbed his thigh earlier in the game, much earlier in the game. It's always in your head, so you're worrying about opening up and going full tilt in case something goes. And with Lamela, I think the way he's kind of really impressed on the fans this year, on one fan's over, is because he's, all 10 stone of him has come back and got stuck into people.
Yeah.
And the thing with him now, some fans are going, he battles and he's a fighter, and he really antagonises the other team, and he gives us that spark, and we love that. But the other fans are going, hang on a minute, we bought him because he's got twinkly toes and a naughty touch, and he's meant to dig out a goal. So we're in between now. We've got this player. We don't know if he's going to be a bit of a hard man, a bit of an antagonist, or is he going to pull out a bit of magic for us? So I think if he's going around getting stuck in and he's carrying a bit of a knock, it's got to be in the back of your mind, because you never go 100%. It is always there niggling away at you.
Yeah, I have to agree with that. When you watch him play, when he releases the ball, sometimes he tends to do it slightly later than he should do. We're all right. He hasn't had a shot on goal for quite some time, and that's quite frustrating, because even when he was a bit lightweight, and he hadn't been in the gym, he was still trying to shoot, and he hasn't done that recently. So it's very frustrating.
So it's actually quite nice to have a bit of time off this week, seeing as we don't have a game until Sunday. Leicester are coming to town once again. I think it was last year, wasn't it? It was like 5-4 or something crazy. It was just like that weird, like basketball type end of the season, like what the hell is going on type thing. I think when Vardy scored, it was a bit like, what is happening? It was mental. They are obviously a danger. I was hoping that they were going to get a better result against Man U at the weekend, but they seem to just not get the ball over the line. What are you thinking from the game? Are we going to expect another? I mean, they do come out, I suppose, don't they? As opposed to like the Newcastles, your Watfords that might sit back a little bit. So, in theory, it should be more of an entertaining game, and hopefully one we can profit from in terms of them being a little bit easier to break down defensively.
I think traditionally they play well against the big teams, and half of that is because they've won the league, I think, and they just want to kind of follow that tradition of being able to play with the big boys. When we played them early on in the season, they didn't have Vardy, and now he's back. So there is a little bit of a worry there, because he likes to score against us. I think they're going through a really sort of torrid time at the moment. Speaking to a few Leicester fans recently, and Puel, they're not that happy with him. You can see that there's a slight frustration, not just with the fans, potentially with the players as well. It'll be an interesting one, because they do turn up. They always turn up against the big teams, especially us. I don't know why, but they've got this thing against us. It's a bit, it's not like West Ham where they hate us. They kind of hate us. I don't know.
I think it's
I don't know why they hate us.
It's from the title challenging season. I think there's a rivalry there.
It's weird,
but
though,
it's not
it's
reciprocated.
over and done with now.
It's not reciprocated. It's weird.
No, yeah, you're right.
It's one way. It's like what
it's definitely one way.
We definitely reciprocate half of them.
It's not
exactly.
It's the same with West. Like I said, West Ham. Like West Ham absolutely hate us to the real passionate hate, but. They're just, what's your problem? What's your problem?
All right, so predictions then, boys. What are we going for? I'm obviously going to do my usual. Tourette's 2-1.
Let's have another 5-4.
All right. That will not go down well this time of the season with my dicky ticker. Okay, what you going to actually go for 5-4, Matt?
No. I think 2-0, comfortable 2-0.
2-0. Okay, all right, Lee.
I'm going to go for a close 3-1 to us. I think it'll be a bit of a battle, and we'll just pick off the end with the third.
I'm going to go the same as Matt and a 2-0 on this one. I think a comfortable 2-0, one goal each off.
In terms of lineup, what are we thinking? Do we think Kyle Walker-Peters might get a run out? Is Aurier going to come back? I mean, I'm hoping the fact that Rose has now had a week to rest, he will rest him, but then he will play him rather. But then we've got the Dortmund game coming up, which is obviously the priority, I suppose. So it's a bit of a weird one, isn't it? When would you, if he can't play 2 games in a week, which one do you start him for? Because he's, I think, been our best player in the past few games. I mean, he didn't do very well on Sunday when he came, or Saturday when he came on. Sorry, but it was, it was just quite late in the day. So, but I thought against Watford, he was brilliant.
I'd try and squeeze 2 games out of him, to be honest with you. I think we're in the business. I think we're just approaching the business end of the season.
Definitely.
And you know what? We're good for third. I think we just need to make sure we consolidate third. I don't think we should take our eye off that. But these games, these European games, if we're to go out, let's go out having a pop at it. Let's not go out going, what do we play him for? Let's squeeze a little bit out of them. So I'd like to see Rose for both, to be honest. And like you say, he's had a week off now, and he should be good. He should be good for 2 games, and then we'll.
Yeah, I mean, most players should be able to play 2 games in a week. I just know that obviously he didn't start on Saturday, potentially a reason why we don't know. But okay, that's good. All right, nice one, boys. Okay, so it's time now to do our little question and answer session, but we're going to have a little break now for 2 seconds, and then we'll come back and we will answer some of the questions that you've been giving us throughout the day. So we'll be back soon. Okay, so it's time to look at some of the questions that you guys have been sending in across all of our social media channels. So thank you very much for sending them in. So we're going to go for the first one, which is from Joy X Jess, who has said, who's the most underrated player from Spurs? Who's the most underrated player from Spurs? So Don, I'm going to go to you first on this one. On the spot.
Underrated?
Yeah, it means if you don't rate them very
we've got
highly.
a really small squad, and they are, I think, underrated. Maybe Ben Davies, I suppose. Slightly underrated by some Spurs fans. I think when he comes in, there's a level. It's not the best level. We can all agree that Rose is the better left back, but it's the amount of time that Rose was out for. There was a consistency with Davis, and so for that, I'm going to give him the underrated award.
And he's also performed at centre back quite well.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
This season.
Yeah, and well, yeah, in a back three, he looks okay. I mean, one thing was when he did do it, a lot of people were like, "Well, what's that about?" But yeah, he does it for Wales. He's done it, for Wales, so it's never an issue with him. I think, he's not our best player. We know that, but he's definitely. Has a consistency, a level to him that I'm always happy to see. You can almost say that some players could drop below their levels, whereas he tends not to.
Okay, Matt, let's try and keep your answer a little bit more succinct than Don, because we've got dinners to eat. Who do you think the most underrated player is?
Well, do you know, for me, I know like we all love him and like we know he's a fantastic player, but for me, Sonny just doesn't get as much credit as I think he deserves. You know, obviously you've got world-class striker with Kane, and you know we talk about Eriksen and Dele, but yeah, for me, Sonny just these last two games prove just how valuable he is to the squad.
I'll keep it a little bit shorter. Walker Peters. I just think he deserves a crack. And you look at Alexander Arnold at Liverpool. He came in and he was given a good run of games, and you look what he's doing now. That could be and possibly should be Walker Peters.
Okay, this is a bit of an interesting one. Do you guys believe we let Bentaleb leave too early? I feel he could have developed to be a very good ball-playing player from us. And that's from Ahmed. Where is he?
He's at Schalke at the moment.
Is he still at Schalke?
But I looked him up now, and he's doing like the manager there said he thinks he's probably the best player he's got in the team.
Wow.
I think the problem with Bentaleb has always been his attitude, which is probably why Poch was happy to let him go. He's been he got sent off recently in a game for Schalke, just like I think after 11 minutes, like, you know, and he's one of those players. I think he's obviously very, very, you know, he's got a lot of ability, but I think his attitude maybe was the stumbling block for us, I think, and for Poch.
There was that time, obviously, when it was out with the old, in with the new, Ryan Mason and Bentaleb as our midfield. It looked all right for a little while. I think we got rid of him at the right time. He was, you know, he was thinking that he was a lot better than what he really was, and we saw him at the World Cup. He's all right. He's not that. I don't think he's that good, actually. I'll be honest with you. I don't think we got rid of him at the right time, I think.
Technically very good on the ball, but I think when he did play, I think he was very is kind of one of the main culprits for slowing the game down a little bit. Trying to move it from side to side, but not at the pace that we do now. So, you know, you're probably looking at him instead of like somebody like Harry Winks, and Harry Winks gives you, you know, 30-40% more energy. So no, good luck to him. He's done well, and you know, he's carved out a decent career for himself. But I don't think we've missed him, and I don't think we let him go too early.
So we had a question here from DJ Jason Feist. Why against Newcastle do you think we played more up top, consistently cross to his head instead of starting Llorente when Newcastle conceded more goals than any other team from headers? Well, we touched on that. And how valuable is Son now? Wow. Well, Matt's definitely touched on that. So, yeah, we have already said he is more valuable to Matt than any other player, and he wants to marry him. Okay, so we've got people are asking about the Dortmund game. We will discuss the Dortmund game next week. Is there a Spurs starting 11 that you would sell? No. Quite a lot of people asking about signings and asking about trophies, but it's all very much rumours, unfortunately, and we prefer to talk about facts. Prediction for the return of Dele Alli and Harry Kane as soon as possible. That's my prediction. I don't have any other.
He's back with ball play now, isn't he? So he's he's
fingers crossed.
He's on the road back.
Okay, so would you like to see Janssen start again anytime soon? That was by Perplexed Lexicon. It could be interesting. I still don't think he's really ready for us, or I don't think he's up to the standard. But we don't really have any games now we can where we can play that play it at the level, in terms of we're not in any of the cups, as in like the domestic. So I think maybe he could come on for the last 10-15 minutes in the game, see if he could grab a goal, get his confidence up. I don't know what his fitness levels are like. So it could be an interesting one, but for me, there are players at the moment that are ahead of him. Okay, so finally, there was a bit of congratulations today to Troy Parrott, who had, I think it was his 18th birthday. 17th birthday. God, Troy, you little weasel. So 17th birthday, and he basically signed a professional contract with us. So he celebrated his birthday in the best style. by signing a professional contract, his first professional contract. He said it was a very proud moment for him and his family. And he's meant to be a real prospect. So really, really good to see that, Troy. We know you're a big fan of the show. And best of luck in your Spurs career. And I would probably, out of him and Janssen, definitely prefer to see him in a Spurs shirt this season towards the end of the game, because he looks like he can maybe finish. So fingers crossed for that. Okay, so that's everything for this evening, guys. Thank you very much for watching. Been a pleasure once again having you on board. So thank you very much to Lee, Don and Matt. Once again, we are obviously on all the social media channels. So thank you very much for sending in your questions. We're going to be doing the same next week. We may even do a live Q&A like we did if we're back at the pub. So we're on all the social media channels, TTILM Show, The Thing I Love Most Show on Facebook. We watch the show on YouTube. And we also have Instagram and Twitter as well. So thanks very much for watching. Let's hope we get 3 points on Sunday. And as always, come on, you Spurs.